Hello, everyone. This is James Song here. Great to see you once again. I have another great reading material to cover, reading lesson today for the TOEFL test. So let's get started. The title of the passage, as you can see, is Evolutionary Origin of Plants. So we're going to learn how plants evolved from its very origin, or we may even go before the origin of plant and how it evolved from pre-plant, before the plant. So let's find out, okay? All right, question one is a vocab question. So let's just check where that question comes from paragraph 2. So let's start reading paragraph 1. It is super important to read all paragraphs, especially the first paragraph, no matter what, okay? So here we go. The evolutionary history of plants has been marked by a series of adaptation, okay? So evolution of plant is done by adaptation, adapting to different environments, I guess. The ancestor of plants, okay? So pre-plant, before plant, so grandfather of the plant were photosynthetic single-celled organism, probably similar to today's algae or algae, however you prefer to pronounce. Algae. Like modern algae, the organism that gave rise to plants presumably lack true roots. Okay, so pre-plant like algae, you know, in the ocean, algae, like seaweed, you know, organism that gave rise to plants, so pre-plant, okay, ancestor of plants, right? Presumably lacked true roots. Yeah, of course. Seaweed doesn't have roots, right? Stems, leaves, and complex reproductive structures such as flowers. So flowers would be one of the plants today that has roots, stems, leaves, and complex reproductive structure, right? So pre-plant, ancestor of plant, like algae, probably didn't have these features, okay? Because ancestor of plants would be something like today's algae, similar to seaweed, okay? So plants come from seaweed. All of these features appear later in the evolutionary history of plant. Of today's different groups of algae, okay, so if we look at different groups of algae that are available right now, green algae are probably the most similar to ancestral plant, okay? So green algae are something that is very similar to ancestor of plants. This supposition stems from the close phylogenetic, natural evolutionary relationship between the two groups, okay? DNA comparison have shown that green algae are plants' closest living relatives. So, okay, so DNA have some kind of, you know, DNAs of modern plants to green algae prove that there is some kind of relationship, okay? In addition, other lines of evidence support the hypothesis. So like your theory, opinion, your idea that is not proven yet, okay? The hypothesis that land plant evolved from ancestral green algae. So that's another hypothesis, okay? That says, as I said, right? Land plant originally came from seaweed. Okay, green algae use the same type of chlorophyll and accessory pigments in photosynthesis as do land plants. So going into detail about, you know, supporting information about why green algae seems to be ancestor of the land plant. This would not be true of red or brown algae. Okay, so It's another reason. All right. So red or brown algae or algae, however you want to pronounce, both are correct. It doesn't have this feature. All right. So they are not seen as ancestor of plants. Green algae store food as starch, as do land plant. Okay. And have cell walls made of cellulose, similar in comparison of those of land plants. So it's just keep listing the detailed information about, you know, why. Okay, it seemed to be ancestor of plant. Again, the food storage and cell wall molecules of red brown algae are different, so they are out. All right, today green algae live mainly in freshwater. Okay, so not in the ocean, freshwater. Interesting. Suggesting that their early evolutionary history may have occurred in freshwater habitats. Okay, so ancestor of plants were evolved from freshwater to land. Sounds pretty amazing, isn't it? Right? So it's like seaweed walking out of the river, walking out of the fresh water and becoming a plant? Maybe not. Okay. If so, the green algae would have been subjected to, affected by, or exposed to, open to, need to face environmental pressure that result in adaptation. So if so, the green algae would have been affected by the environmental pressure that resulted in adaptation. They need to adapt, they need to change to survive. How Homo sapien, how humans evolved, you know, we were different from millions of years ago. We evolved to the state that we are in right now. Adaptation, adapt, that enhance their potential to give rise to land-dwelling organism. Okay, so they must have adapted to evolve, ultimately to become land plant. Okay, sounds amazing, but you know, scientifically seem to be true. Okay, or yeah. All right, so subjected to, affected by, so open to environmental pressure, so they need to adapt. Okay, not restricted by, not distant from, not combined with. Combined with means like mixed with or becoming one. All right, so you combine with environmental pressure, you become the environmental pressure? No. Good start, I think. Let's keep going. Question 2, what can be inferred from paragraph 3 about ancient green algae? Let's go. Environmental condition of freshwater habitats, unlike those on ocean, are highly variable. Okay, so I didn't know this. Freshwater habitats vary more than ocean habitat. Okay, so what varies? Water temperature fluctuates seasonally or even daily. Changing levels of rainfall can lead to fluctuation of chemicals in freshwater, or even to periods in which the aquatic habitat dry up also varies. Okay, so water temperature, changing levels of rainfall, these conditions varies a lot in freshwater habitat compared to ocean habitat. Okay. Ancient freshwater, so how do they adapt? Ancient freshwater green algae must have evolved features that enable them to withstand extreme of temperature. Extreme of temperature here means extremely cold, extremely hot, extremely varied, okay, up and down. And periods of dryness comes from the changing levels of rainfall. So I guess less rainfall would have been a real problem. So they evolve some features to adapt to these situations. So what were the features that enable them to withstand? Okay, these adaptation doesn't tell us yet. These adaptations serve their descendants, so land plant in this context, well as they invaded the land. So it's just, emphasizing their descendants here in this context means evolving potentially into land dwelling organism, land plant. Okay, so these adaptations. So probably next paragraph, we will get to learn what were the exact adaptations. So how did they evolve? What kind of features they have, obtained. But let's solve question 2 first, I guess. Yeah. A, they lived in a generally wet environment that was sometimes dry. Yeah, so obviously it's fresh water, so generally wet, but because it's so varied, it says period of dryness. So it's not dry all the time. So this is a problem. Like if there's a lack of rainfall because it varied a lot, then occasionally, sometimes they might have some kind of a dry patch, right? But generally wet, it's fresh water. Okay, so A looks to be pretty good. Good answer. B, they adapted better to changes in water temperature than did other changes in the environment. No, they said they adapted well to things like changes in water temperature and changes in rainfall, potential dryness. It's a list, right? It's not comparison, but B says they adapted better in water temperature than other changes like dryness. Okay, so B is wrong. C, they inhabited areas that were close to the ocean. How do you know? It said freshwater. So does freshwater needs to be near the ocean? Okay, no. They had lived primarily on land. What are you talking about? Okay, so it's pre-land plant. They inhabited fresh water. So answer is A. Good start, I think. Paragraph 4, question 3. Desolate means like empty, deserted, nothing there, barren. That's what desolate means. The terrestrial world is green now. Yeah, so it's green world. The earth, the land is green, right? Plants, grass, but it did not start out that way. Yeah, because we can gather there was nothing on land. It came from the fresh water. Then, yeah, let's find out. When plants first made the transition ashore more than 400 million years ago. Okay, so 400 million years ago, seaweed came out of the fresh water and started to grow as a grass. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm just kidding. Okay. The land was barren and desolate. So and here, so some kind of the same direction as barren. So if you knew the meaning of barren, then maybe you could have guessed desolate in the context. Okay. There must be similar meaning as barren. So that's deserted, empty, nothing there. In hospital to life. Okay. So it was impossible to survive as land organism, land plant when they first made appearance. So how did they survive on day one? Probably they'll tell us. From a plant's evolutionary viewpoint, however, okay, it's barren, like you can't survive, nothing there. But it was also a land of opportunity, really? Okay, so from evolutionary viewpoint, plant is like going, it's a good opportunity. It's an American dream. It's it's an opportunity. Why? Free of competitors and predators. That's true. There's nothing there. So how can you have competitors or predators that will kill you? There's nothing there. It's completely empty. So if you can survive there, maybe it's an opportunity, right? To thrive, to grow there, to live, to survive. If you are able to survive. Full of carbon dioxide and sunlight. Okay, so plants, photosynthesis to survive, make food for themselves. So full of carbon dioxide, which they need, and sunlight. So it was opportunity. The raw materials for photosynthesis, yeah, as we know, which are present in far higher concentration in air than in water. Okay. So in atmosphere, there are a lot more carbon dioxide and sunlight than in the water. Okay, so let's summarize this sentence because we need to solve the question. So let's stick to the previous sentence. So it was barren and desolate, inhospitable to life. So it was hard to survive when it first made appearance, tried to live on land as a plant. But from evolutionary perspective, it was land of opportunity. The land was a great opportunity because no competitor, no predator, and full of material for photosynthesis, right? For them to survive. A lot of sunlight and CO2. Okay, so that's what this sentence is saying. Question 4, let's solve it. Which of the sentences below best express essential information in the highlighted sentence? So which one has the essential information? Incorrect choices change the meaning in important ways. So it's a wrong information or not mentioned, or leave out essential information. So if it doesn't have the main idea that this sentence is trying to say, then it's also wrong. A, terrestrial plant had the advantages of not having rivals. Okay, so no competitors. Or predators, okay? And having easy access to photosynthetic material, CO2 and sunlight. How about it was opportunity? Yeah, advantages, right? Had advantages. Yeah, it was great opportunity because they had advantages of no competitors and predator and had plenty of CO2 and water. Yeah, seems like one sentence is missing. Like we want one more sentence, okay, a bit more information, but it doesn't seem to be wrong, right? It paraphrased. Okay. So we'll keep A and double check BCD. B, the abundance of photosynthetic material made life on land easier. Easier, not mentioned. Okay, it's just saying it was opportunity because there are some advantages of these things. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Once plant had eliminated their competitor, so once plant went up and killed all their competitors, no, okay, and their predators were ready for them, okay. Once they went on to the land from their seaweed status, they killed all the competitors? No. Okay. Their evolutionary process proceeded smoothly. Oh my God. Completely different meaning. The plant evolution eliminated competitors. Same thing. Terrible. Pretty funny, I think, anyway. Plant evolution, yeah, I have a unique sense of humor, maybe. Plant evolution eliminated competitor. This means like this is subject, this is verb. So plant evolution got rid of, removed competitors. Makes no sense, okay? So made the process of photosynthesis more efficient. Totally different meaning, okay? So actually answer is A. Right? Which of the following is true about the terrestrial world at the time it was colonized by plants? It was exposed to high level of solar radiation. Okay, irrelevant. It contained a limited supply of carbon dioxide, not mentioned this way. It had developed 400 million years earlier. Just, I don't know, just not mentioned. Can't really comprehend this answer choice to this question, to be honest with you. It lacked the presence of any organism. Yeah, it's true. So actually answer comes from here, right? Terrestrial world is green now, but it did not start out that way, okay? So when the plant first made the transition ashore more than 400 million years ago to land, because when plants, so plants here means land plant, as we know now, plants grow on land. So when plants first made the transition ashore, okay, off the water to land, more than 400 million years ago, the land was barren and desolate, inhospitable to life. So there was nothing there, okay? What purpose does paragraph 5 serve? So what is the purpose of paragraph 5? In the larger discussion of the origin of terrestrial plant. So what is the purpose of paragraph 5 in discussing origin of land plants in a bigger picture? Okay, let's go. When plants pioneered the land, yeah, when there were nothing there. So this is another confirmation. Question 5 is D. They faced a range of challenges posed by terrestrial environment. Okay, good, detail. What challenges? On land, supportive buoyancy. Buoyancy is ability to float in the water. Okay, so like the loon animal, ducks, they have a buoyancy in their body, so they can float, okay, on the water. So on land, the supportive buoyancy of water is missing. There's no buoyancy on land. Okay. The plant is no longer bathed in nutrient solution. So solution here means like liquid. Okay. So plant is on land, not in the water that has a lot of nutrients. Okay. And the air tends to dry things out. Okay, so these are the challenges. Okay, so no buoyancy. Okay, it's not, okay, washed with nutrients, and air dry things. Okay, these conditions, challenging conditions, favor the evolution of structure that support the body. So if something support the body, not like seaweed, okay, algae, if it like support the body, and vessels like a tube or blood vessels, okay, vessels that transport water. So plant, so human, we have blood vessels, okay. So for the plant, if they had like vessels to transport water, just like how humans blood vessel transport blood, for example, and nutrients to all parts of the plant, and structure that conserve water to overcome the third condition, okay? Air sometimes dry things out, okay? So they needed these three adaptation, evolution, I guess, okay? So if you had these three things, it would be favorable, okay, in order to overcome these challenging conditions, right? So probably they did adapt this way. The resulting adaptation to dry land includes some structural features that arose early in plant evolution. So it happened. They were succeeded, evolved this way. Now, these features are common to virtually all land plants. Okay. For example, maybe they include, okay, there you go. Great. They include roots. So that's something that supporting the body, right? They have roots. Waxy cuticle that covers the surface of the leaves. So waxy, like a wax you put on your hair. Waxy cuticle that covers surface of the leaves, and stems and limits evaporation of water. So, you know, some functions to not get dry. And pores called stomata in leaves and stems that allow gas exchange but close when water is scarce to save water. And also, I guess, you know, waxy cuticle that covers the surface of the leaves and stems. So stems, it's like, you know, vessels, okay, to move the water through the plant, thus reducing water loss, okay? Other adaptation occur later in the transition to terrestrial life, land life, and now widespread. Where are we? But not universal among plants. So it's not every single plant universal, okay? Have it, but other adaptation occur later in the transition to terrestrial life and now widespread. Okay, so yeah, it's common sense. All right. All plants, not all, not every single one, but most of them have roots, have stems, have leaves, and has waxy cover to the leaves. Okay, so they are the adaptation, they are the evolution to overcome the challenging conditions of the land to survive as land plants. Okay. These include conducting vessels, there you go, that transport water. Okay, so most of the plant, right? Widespread in plants. Not every single one, but mostly, okay? And minerals upward from the roots, and that move photosynthetic products from the leaves to the rest of the plant body, and stiffening substance lignin, which supports the plant body. So some kind of structure, okay? Like a stiff structure, not all flexible, right? Helping it expose maximum surface area to sunlight so you can get sunlight, right? All right. Not like lying down or squishy and washy or, okay, whatever. Okay, so you get the point. All right, so questions wording were pretty heavy. So what is the purpose of this paragraph in discussing origin of land plants? Okay, question may be easy. Let's find out. A, to emphasize, to stress, okay, how long it took for, does it say like how many years? Not really. How long it took for ancestral plant to adjust to life on land. The focus is not how many years it took. Okay, paragraph 5, definitely not. We read it together just now. To disprove the argument, I mean, it didn't disprove any argument, so looks pretty wrong to begin with, but let's read the rest to make sure. Disprove the argument that land plant adapted easily to their new terrestrial environment. It's not about how easy they adapted or how hard it was to adapt. It's irrelevant. Okay, it wasn't about, they adapt really easily within 5 years. It's not, right? Or they struggle to adapt. Okay, it's not mentioned there, right? It's irrelevant. It's not about how easily or how hard it was to adapt. It's just saying it eventually adapted, it evolved, and these are the features they began to have, they evolved with. These are the adaptation. These, they changed this way, right? This is the outcome. This is the result. This is the adaptation. This is an evolution. It's not how easy or how hard for the plants to evolve was to adapt, okay? C, to explain how plant colonization changed the physical environment of land. Well, definitely not. Okay, so C, if you chose C, you meant like how plant evolved and adapted, right? And how that changed the land condition. That's what C means. D, better be right. To describe how ancestral plants solved the problem. Okay, so there was some challenging condition, okay? And they solved it, so they indeed evolved and adapted, okay? They didn't fail, okay? There were some challenging conditions, unlike when they were in the water, and how they successfully evolved and adapted, okay? So describe how ancestral plant solved the problems, overcame challenging conditions they faced in colonizing the land. Yeah, exactly, right? There were some challenging conditions that land provided, and they overcame, okay, by certain adaptation. Great. Good question, I think. Very good quality question. All right, moving on to question 7, paragraph 6. These adaptations allow, so these adaptation, having stems and vessels and leaves and wax cuticles and the later adaptation as well. Okay. So these adaptations allowed an increasing diversity of plant forms. So they were able to create different forms, okay? Not just grass, different types of grass, bushes, trees, okay? To exploit dry land, okay? To take advantage of dry land or, use the land. So different types of plant started to prosper, right? Life on land, however, okay, something tough, something negative, something bad, also required new method of transporting sperm to eggs than living in fresh water as algae, right? Okay, sorry. So reproductive, okay? Reproduction. Unlike aquatic water and marine forms, land plant cannot always rely on water current to carry their sex cells and disperse their fertilized eggs. So this is how things are done, right? In the water, right? So water currents carry their sex cells and disperse their sex cells to fertilize eggs, right? So sperms gets fertilized to eggs in the water, and sperms kind of gets fertilized by the currents of the water, okay? But cannot be done on land. Okay, it's in the water. So the most successful groups of land plants are those that evolved, adapted, method of fertilized sex cells, okay, disperse, spread, dispersal, that are independent of water. Of course, there is no water. We are not underwater, okay? Independent of the water and structures that protect developing embryos from drying out. So without being dried out, so it cannot be dried out, even though we are not under the water, but kind of being able to disperse it without help of the waters or without help of the water current, okay? Protected embryos and waterless dispersal of sex cells were achieved. Well done, got it done. With the origin of seed plants. Yeah, seed plants, seeds, dispersal, right? Yeah, and fruit trees started to grow. Fruits and seed in the fruits on the ground, rotted. I don't know, okay, or spread it, right? Okay, so origin of seed plants that were able to disperse without the water, okay? And the key evolutionary innovation that they introduced, pollen, seeds, and later flowers and fruits, the way sex cells are dispersed for reproduction, okay, for new plants. Sounds obvious, but you know, it's like amazing and new evolution, adaptation, okay? So yeah, this was like created through evolution, okay? Wow. Okay, cool. Paragraph, question 7. According to paragraph 6, the adaptation made by terrestrial plant had which of the following effect? Okay. Plants developed reproductive strategies usable in both land and water. Both land and water? You're living in land. Why are you strategizing, having a meeting to reproduce in the water? I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is wrong, okay? The plant, because if you chose A is saying plants developed way to reproduce in water as well as on land. Makes no sense, right? They are now land-dwelling organisms. They should develop strategies to reproduce on land, right? The plant diversity achieved in water environment diminished on land. It's just something not mentioned, right? It's a reading test, so you have to find the evidence in the passage, and passage clearly say these adaptations allow an increasing diversity of plant forms, okay? So plant diversity increased, okay? So B is wrong. Okay, C. Seed plants became the dominant species among plants. Maybe, but does this say that though? I don't think it says that. I think it just says, you know, protected embryos and waterless dispersal of sex cells were achieved through origin of seed plants. So they may have dominated, but it doesn't go as far as this, okay? It's just saying it made it possible, and origin was origin of seed plants. That's how it started, right? So maybe triangle. D better be the answer. Greater range of plants were able to develop. Yep. So that's opposite to B, kind of. And let's read the question again to answer the question directly. The adaptation made by terrestrial plant had which of the following effects? So it's just the first sentence. Okay, coming from the paragraph 5, these adaptations they made to survive and thrive on land allowed in increasing diversity of the plant forms. This adaptation to live on land allow increasing diversity of the plant form. That's it for question 7, right? Yeah, so stick to the question, just answer the question. Okay, which of the following, question 8, which of the following best describes the author's presentation of the information about land plant? Ooh, this is very rare, more difficult question because it's not, the answer is not targeted to specific paragraph, like paragraph 6 only, okay? It deals with the whole passage as one thing, as a whole, right? So which of the following best describes the author's presentation of the information about land plant? Okay, so let's really think about this. Good question though. So how author present the question about land plant? Okay, A, the author provided an overview of the evolutionary relationship between specific species of algae, green algae, and land plant. This is only one part. This is only like introductory part, right? As we go on to the bodies of the passage, like after paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5, it really develops, it has a lot of information about what challenges land plant faced, and as an evolutional change, how they changed, how they adapted, and successfully evolved to survive, live as a land plant, right? So this is very limited. It's just up to paragraph 1 and 2, okay? Yeah. B, author discusses the transformation, plants went through transformation, adaptation, evolutionary change. So in big picture, I really like this answer so far, okay? Underwent in the process of changing from water creature to land creature, water organism to land organism, from water environment to land environment. Okay, pretty perfect, I think. So author is presenting information as how land plant went through adaptation, evolutionary process to meet the condition in the water to the land, condition of land. Yeah, I like this. That's the whole flow of the passage. The author establishes a pattern of similarity between major land and water plant groups. Definitely not. So it is a pattern. The whole passage is about a pattern of similarity. So this is similar, this is similar. When you compare these two things, these are the same, these are the same. Maybe just paragraph 1 and 2, or in an introductory part, it briefly talks about ancestor of a plant seems to be what we see today as green algae. That's it. That's not the whole flow of the passage. Okay, B is much better. D, the author presents evidence to support the hypothesis that plants first fully evolved in water before finding their way onto the land. So this is very partial as well. Again, I have to repeat myself because D is very much like just trying to prove green algae seems to be ancestor of the land plant. That's it, right? But I'm going to skip up and down a little bit. Sorry if you don't like that. I apologize. So it started like ACD, okay? And then when you get to like paragraph 3, 4, 5, 6, it talks about, freshwater condition was like this, but land condition was like that, and how they evolved and changed and developed to overcome the challenges they had to deal with condition of land as land plant. Okay, maybe I'm repeating myself too much. I think you understood it clearly, but it's just my effort to, help you understand 100% clearly. Okay. Yeah, so answer is B. Clear, right? No problems? All right, 9, 10, and we're done. So we go back to paragraph 3. Okay, let's read the sentence and see logically where it fits, where it should fit. Okay. Scientists believe that, so it's some kind of statement, not detail. Chemical changes and thicker exterior. Okay, so chemical changes is a detail. So, and thicker exterior, so they're outside, got thicker, among other things, and plus some other adaptation changes, may have helped ancient algae overcome the condition in their environment. Okay, so more specifically, the chemical changes. So if the above sentence were like they evolved to overcome the condition, and this is more specific information, like chemical changes and thicker exterior as an example, help them. Okay, so can't be the first square, makes no sense. But let's read this and just double check. First one is wrong. The environmental conditions of freshwater habitats, unlike those of ocean habitats, are highly variable. Yeah, see? First one is not. The answer. The cannot be here, right? We need more information about why or how highly variable it is, or in the freshwater how variable it is, or compared to ocean, freshwater is more variable in this area than ocean. We need some more information about how variable it is, how much more freshwater habitats are more variable to ocean, right? So we cannot put in second square. Okay. Water temperature can fluctuate seasonally or even daily. Changing levels of rainfall can lead to fluctuation in the concentration of chemical in the water, even to periods in which aquatic habitats dries up. So it talks about water temperature and changing levels of rainfall and how can it affect. Okay. All right, so doesn't seem to be 3, because like maybe scientists believe that chemical changes and thicker exterior, okay, because changing levels of rainfall can lead to fluctuation of chemicals. So they changed chemicals and thicker exterior. Yeah, so let's check whether this sentence is better suited after previous sentence or not, or whether this sentence supports this sentence, or actually the other way around. This sentence supports this sentence. Okay, if this sentence supports this sentence, then it should be the last square. So let's have a read of this sentence after third. Ancient freshwater green algae must have evolved features that enable them to withstand extreme temperature and period of dryness. And to explain in more detail, what kind of features they evolved? Thicker exterior and chemical changes. Bang! So it should be in the fourth square, right? Because this sentence talks about green algae must have evolved features. And this sentence doesn't tell us what features. And this sentence here tell us what features they evolved, right? What features they have successfully obtained, right? So it should go right in here, right after this sentence. Let's read the last sentence. These adaptations, so these adaptation, thicker exterior and chemical changes, among other things. These adaptations serve their descendants well as they invaded land. So these adaptations serve their descendant, which is land plant, well in the future, right? Perfect. So fourth and D, right here, supporting this sentence. Supporting features. What are the features? Chemical changes and thicker exterior, among other things. Bang, fourth. All right. Last question, summary. Introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passage provided below. In moving from water to land, ancestral plants, green algae, overcame, ancestral plants, so it includes like early plant, overcame many obstacles in order to survive. Okay, so early land plant. Okay, so what did they overcome? All right, and what adaptation and evolution they have went through. Let's pick some main ideas to support this thesis. So complete the summary by selecting 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas, so main ideas of the paragraphs. Some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that are not present in the passage. So some wrong information or information that are not mentioned, that is not mentioned, or just a minor detail. Even if information may be correct, if it's not important ideas or main ideas, it's not the answer. Let's go. A. Neither brown or red algae, I don't like it already because it's very detailed, okay? When you consider the whole passage and each and every paragraph, brown and red algae not being the ancestor of the land plant, actually ancestor of land plant is green algae, is not main idea, okay? In that mind, read it anyway. Are likely to be ancestor plant because, so this is wrong, easy. Wrong and minor detail. So thank you, wrong answer, right? They're wrong and minor detail, okay? So they are not likely to be ancestor of the plant. So I'll move on. B, instability of freshwater habitat. So I like it already because high variance means instability, okay? Instability of freshwater habitat cause marine algae to develop adaptation to harsh environment. So that was like a previous question we've done, insertion question, right? So paragraph 3, yeah. Okay, paragraph 3. Okay, C. So B is the answer. The colonization of land by plants was major revolution in the history of Earth. Maybe it is, but does it say in the passage? This part? Are you sure? It doesn't say, right? There's no mentioning of this whatsoever. I'm sorry. Think about it. Does the passage mention this? No. Okay, D. Terrestrial plant, land plant, adjusted to life on land by undergoing structural changes that enable them to support themselves, resist drying, and exchange gases. So this is like really main idea of the whole passage to support the thesis, right? Right. So they faced some challenges because land conditions were different and hard. So what happened? Evolutionary changes has happened, adaptation, to be able to survive under land condition, and they thrived. Okay, so that's before they thrived. So it's paragraph 5, probably, right? It is. It is paragraph 5. Okay. So D, 100% answer. Probably most important idea. Okay. All right. E, to colonize new terrestrial habitat. So in order to live as a land plant, plants needed to create ways of reproducing without water. Yeah. So that's the reproduction, sex cells, dispersal development. So that was paragraph 6. Clear, very simple. F, once plants had overcome the challenges posed by terrestrial life, they prospered by becoming less diverse. This makes no sense. If they prosper, how can they be less diverse? So prosper means thrive, right? So logically, they become more diverse. So logically, it makes no sense. And to double check, what the heck, because it's the last question. We solved this question as well. Paragraph 5. And question, was it paragraph 5? Yeah, okay. Sorry to skip up and down. These adaptations allow an increasing diversity of landforms to exploit dry land, right? Okay, so it thrive and it become more diversified. It mentions once or twice, actually, if you remember. Okay, you can look at the video again or find the right section of the video. But I remember saying this more than once, more than one time in the passage mentioned that it became more diversified, means more variety. Okay, so F is wrong in so many ways. Sorry if I blabbed on unnecessarily a little bit and bored you. I hope not. Okay, so answer is BDE. There you have it. Another reading lesson. Hope it was super useful, beneficial, and really helped you. That's why I'm here. And I'll come back with another lesson. Thank you. Really, I appreciate it. You're watching my video to learn and try to improve your TOEFL score. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Bye.